The night it began felt ordinary at first. The sky was clear, the air still, and the stars were fixed in their familiar patterns. There was no storm, no unusual sound, nothing to suggest that anything was about to change. Yet, beneath the calm surface, something subtle felt different, as if the night itself was waiting. As the hours passed, the silence grew heavier. Not the peaceful silence of sleep, but a deep, pressing quiet that seemed to absorb every sound. Even distant noises felt muted, as though the world had been gently wrapped in something unseen. Then, without warning, the stars began to fade. Not all at once, but gradually, one by one, as if the sky were slowly erasing itself. In their place, a single light appeared. It did not flicker or move like an aircraft. It simply existed perfectly still, suspended above the horizon. The light was soft, almost gentle, yet impossible to ignore. It did not shine outward but inward, as if containing its own depth. Looking at it felt strangely familiar, like remembering something long forgotten. Time seemed to stretch. Seconds felt longer. Breathing slowed without effort. The air grew dense, pressing lightly against the skin. There was no fear, only an overwhelming sense of attention as though something far beyond the sky had noticed this moment. The light slowly expanded, revealing a shape within it, not fully visible, not fully hidden. Edges shifted subtly, refusing to settle into any familiar form. It was not mechanical, yet not organic. It was something in between, existing beyond simple definition. As the shape became clearer, a strange realization formed. It was not arriving, it had already been there. The light lingered, silent and unmoving, as if observing the world below. No sound followed, no wind stirred. Even thoughts seemed to slow, drifting gently, unfocused. Then, just as quietly as it appeared, the light began to withdraw. It did not vanish suddenly. Instead, it folded inward, collapsing into itself until nothing remained but the empty sky. The stars slowly returned, reclaiming their places as if nothing had happened. Time resumed its normal pace. The night felt ordinary again, but something had changed. Because once you notice the sky watching back, you can never look at it the same way again. The night after the light disappeared, sleep did not come easily. The sky looked the same, the stars fixed in their familiar patterns, yet something felt permanently altered. It was not fear that lingered, but a quiet expectation, as if the night itself was holding a secret it was not ready to reveal. Time behaved strangely. Minutes stretched, then slipped away unnoticed. The mind drifted between wakefulness and rest, caught in a space where thoughts felt distant and unreal. Every sound seemed delayed, arriving a moment later than it should have. Even breathing felt slower, heavier, as if the air carried more weight than before. At some point, awareness faded, or perhaps it deepened. When consciousness returned, the room was unchanged. Darkness filled every corner, calm and unmoving. Yet there was a distinct feeling of absence, like waking after a conversation and realizing something important had been said, but could not be remembered. The clock showed only a few minutes had passed, but the body insisted otherwise. Muscles felt relaxed, rested as if hours had gone by. The mind, however, carried fragments, impressions without images, sensations without source, a sense of height, a vast openness, and above all, the feeling of being observed without judgment. Outside, the sky remained silent. Over the following days, subtle inconsistencies began to appear. Streetlights seemed dimmer at night. Familiar paths felt slightly unfamiliar. Reflections lingered a fraction longer than expected. None of it was obvious enough to prove, yet impossible to ignore once noticed. Dreams changed as well. They were not chaotic or emotional, but calm and distant. Vast spaces filled with soft light, shapes forming and dissolving without urgency. No voices, no faces, only presence, and always the same feeling that something was patiently waiting. The light did not return, not visibly. Instead, the silence deepened. Sometimes, while staring at the night sky, there was the sense that the stars were not fixed points anymore, but openings, thin places between worlds, as if the sky were less a ceiling and more a veil. It became clear that whatever had appeared was not an isolated event. It was not a visit in the way humans understand visits. It was a shift, a slight adjustment in how reality aligned with something far larger. And once that alignment changes, it does not easily return to what it was before. The silence was no longer empty. It was listening. The nights continued calm on the surface, yet filled with a tension that could not be explained. The sky looked peaceful, dark and wide, stretching endlessly above, but now that calm carried weight, a gentle pressure like a presence just beyond reach. There was no fear in it, only anticipation. Each night, lying still, listening to the soft rhythm of breathing, the world felt slightly distant. Sounds faded more quickly. Thoughts slowed on their own, drifting without effort. Sleep came easily, yet never deeply. It was the kind of rest where the mind floats, half awake, half dreaming. In that state, the sky felt closer. Sometimes, just before sleep fully arrived, there was a subtle sensation, soft pull, as if awareness itself were being gently lifted, not upward, not outward, but inward, toward something vast and quiet. No images appeared, no clear memories formed, only impressions, a sense of space without edges, motion without movement, time without direction. The light did not return, yet its absence felt intentional, as if the moment of appearance had been enough, as if what mattered was not being seen again, but being remembered quietly, subconsciously. Occasionally, the night air seemed to shimmer, not visibly, but emotionally. The stillness felt layered, as though multiple moments existed at once. The same night, repeating in slightly different ways, overlapping without touching. Sleep became deeper, heavier, more inviting. Dreams blurred into one another. Not stories, not symbols, just vast calm fields of awareness. Sometimes there was the impression of distance closing, of something drawing nearer without moving. Other times the feeling was reversed, as if drifting away from the familiar world into something softer, slower, and infinitely wide. The sky, once just a backdrop, now felt active, not moving, not changing, but aware, as if it had always been watching and only now had been noticed. And in that recognition, the excitement did not come from danger, but from connection, a quiet thrill wrapped in calm, the kind that settles the mind instead of racing it. Night after night, sleep arrived more gently, more deeply. Thoughts dissolved faster, The silence grew warmer, almost welcoming, because whatever existed beyond the sky was no longer distant. It was close enough to feel, and patient enough to wait. As the nights passed, the boundary between waking and sleep became softer, thinner, almost transparent. Lying still in the darkness, it felt as though the world no longer ended at the edges of the room. Space seemed to extend inward, stretching quietly behind closed eyes. There was a sense that certain moments were different from others. Not louder, not brighter, just thinner. As if reality in those moments could be gently pressed through. Breathing slowed naturally. Thoughts no longer demanded attention. They drifted, faded, and disappeared before forming fully. The mind rested in a calm, suspended state where awareness floated without effort. In that stillness, the feeling returned. Not the light itself, but what followed it. The presence, subtle and patient, never intrusive, never urgent. It did not announce itself. It simply existed, just beyond perception, like something standing quietly behind a curtain. Sleep came in waves, deep, slow, comforting. Yet beneath it, awareness remained softly awake. In that space, time lost its meaning. Minutes and hours blended together, stretching into something smooth and endless. Sometimes there was the impression of movement, not physical movement, but a shift in position within reality itself, as if the mind were gently sliding sideways, passing through layers that felt familiar and unfamiliar at the same time. No images appeared, no voices spoke, but understanding arrived without words, a calm certainty that the world was not singular, that this place, this moment, existed alongside countless others almost identical, yet slightly different. The sky above felt closer than before, not physically nearer, but more connected, as if the distance between here and elsewhere had quietly collapsed. Excitement stirred gently, never sharp enough to wake the body. It was the excitement of realization, not danger. The feeling of standing near something vast and ancient, something that did not need to reveal itself fully to be known. The presence did not watch constantly. It came and went like a tide, always respectful, always calm, as if waiting for the right moment, or perhaps the right state of mind. And slowly a realization settled in. This was not an encounter. It was an alignment, a thin place where worlds overlapped, where attention alone was enough to draw near. Nothing needed to happen. Nothing needed to be forced. Sleep deepened again, heavier and warmer. The body rested completely. The mind drifted gently, carried by the quiet understanding that the universe was far more layered than it appeared. And somewhere beyond the stars, something waited and moving, patient, and awaren't if the next moment the sky became thin again. The nights no longer felt separate from one another. They flowed together, blending into a single, continuous calm. Sleep arrived earlier now, heavier and deeper, as if the body had learned how to let go more easily. The moment eyes closed, the familiar world softened, losing its sharp edges. Distance began to feel meaningless. Not physical distance, but the space between here and elsewhere, between now and then, between one thought and the next. Everything seemed closer, folded inward, quietly connected. In the stillness before sleep, awareness expanded gently. It did not rush outward. It simply widened like a slow breath filling an endless space. The feeling was peaceful, yet charged with something subtle, an excitement that did not disturb rest, but deepened it. Sometimes there was the impression of standing in more than one place at once, not seeing it, not imagining it, just knowing it, as if this moment existed alongside others, perfectly aligned, separated only by the thinnest veil. The presence returned more often now, still silent, still unseen. It never crossed into full awareness, yet it felt closer than before, familiar, almost reassuring, like something that had always existed nearby, waiting to be noticed. There were moments brief and gentle when it felt as though attention itself was being guided, not pulled, not pushed, simply invited to rest in a wider space. In those moments, the sense of self softened, boundaries dissolved, thought became slow and distant. Excitement rose quietly in the background, not the kind that tightens the body, but the kind that relaxes it further. A calm anticipation, the feeling that something important was unfolding, even if it did not need to be understood. Time slipped again, sleep deepened, yet beneath it, awareness remained warm and steady, floating in a vast, dark openness. There were no stars here, no sky, no ground, only depth, infinite and still. It became clear that the light had never been the message. It was the doorway. What followed was not meant to be seen, but felt, not visited, but entered gradually, through patience and quiet attention, through rest, through surrender. The universe, it seemed, did not reveal itself through force or curiosity alone. It opened in moments of stillness, when the mind softened enough to notice how close everything truly was. As sleep finally took full hold, the presence lingered gently, like a distant horizon that never disappears, close enough to feel, far enough to remain mysterious. And in that space, where distance no longer mattered, the night continued silent, vast, and patiently unfolding. Eventually, the nights reached a point where they no longer felt like nights at all. Darkness was still there, but it carried a softness, a depth that felt welcoming rather than empty. Lying still, the body rested completely, as if it trusted the silence without question. The mind followed. Thoughts no longer formed clearly. They appeared briefly, then dissolved before taking shape. Awareness floated freely, unbound by direction or effort. In this state, excitement did not rise sharply, glowed gently, steady and calm, like a distant light behind closed eyes. That was when the crossing began. Not a movement through space, but a shift in attention, a subtle realignment, as if awareness slid quietly between layers that had always overlapped. There was no sensation of leaving, only the realization of arriving somewhere already familiar. The presence was there again, closer now, yet still respectful. It did not enter awareness directly. Instead, it surrounded it like a vast field of quiet observation. There was no emotion attached to it, no warmth, no cold, only clarity. A calm intelligence that did not need to announce itself. Time dissolved completely. There was no sense of before or after. Only a long, continuous moment stretching endlessly in every direction. Within it, countless impressions drifted past, hints of other skies, other nights, other versions of the same moment existing all at once. The excitement deepened, but never disturbed rest. It felt like standing at the edge of something immense, knowing there was no need to step forward. Simply being near was enough. Sleep and awareness merged. The body remained still, breathing slow and steady, while the mind rested in a vast openness. In that openness, understanding arrived quietly, not as knowledge, but as certainty. The universe was not distant. It was layered. Worlds were not separated by space, but by attention, by perception, by the thinness of awareness in moments of deep calm. The crossing did not require effort, technology, or invitation. Only stillness. The presence seemed to acknowledge this realization, not with words or images, but with a subtle easing, as if something had gently aligned into place. Nothing more was asked. Nothing more was shown. There was no need. As sleep deepened further, the openness slowly faded, folding back into quiet darkness. The body rested fully now, heavy and warm. The mind drifted softly, carrying only the faint memory of vastness. And though the night appeared unchanged from the outside, something fundamental had shifted. Because once the crossing is felt even, briefly the boundary between worlds is never quite as solid again. The silence returned, but now it felt shared. After the crossing, nothing obvious changed. Days passed normally. Nights returned on schedule. The world continued as it always had. Yet beneath the surface of ordinary moments, something subtle remained quiet, steady, and impossible to forget. Sleep came faster now, deeper. As soon as the body settled into stillness, awareness softened and widened without effort. The familiar heaviness of rest arrived like a gentle wave, carrying the mind into calm, open space. The silence no longer felt empty. It felt occupied, not by sound or movement, but by presence. A quiet companionship woven into the darkness. It did not watch constantly. It did not interfere. It simply existed alongside awareness, patient and steady, like a distant horizon that never fully disappears. In this state, excitement returned, not sharp, not urgent, but slow and comforting. The kind that warms the chest and loosens the breath. The excitement of knowing something vast is near, without needing to approach it. Sometimes, just before sleep deepened completely, there was the faint impression of overlap again, a sensation that this moment existed more than once. Parallel versions of the same stillness, aligned briefly, sharing the same quiet space. No images followed, no memories formed, only a sense of continuity, as if the crossing had not been a single event, but the beginning of an ongoing alignment. The mind no longer searched for meaning. There was no need. Understanding had settled into something simpler, calm acceptance that reality was far more expansive than it appeared, and that awareness itself was the key that gently unlocked it. Breathing slowed, muscles relaxed fully. The body rested as if it had always known how to be this still. In the deep quiet, it felt as though the universe itself was resting too. Countless worlds unfolding silently, layered together, touching without colliding, existing not apart, but together, separated only by attention. The presence did not grow stronger or closer. It became familiar, and familiarity brought comfort. Sleep finally took full hold, smooth and uninterrupted, yet even as consciousness faded, a soft certainty remained that the connection did not end with waking, nor begin with sleep. It simply was. And as the night carried everything gently forward, the silence wrapped itself around awareness once more, endless and shared, waiting patiently for the next moment when the sky would thin and alignment would return without effort. As nights continued to pass, the experience no longer felt new, yet it never lost its quiet intensity. Each time the world slowed and sleep approached, the same gentle transition returned. Awareness softened, the edges of thought dissolved. The familiar world faded into something wider and calmer. There was no effort involved anymore. The mind did not search, the body did not resist. Everything settled naturally, as if this state had always been part of the rhythm of rest. Sleep was no longer an ending, but a passage smooth, uninterrupted, and welcoming. In the stillness, the layered nature of reality became easier to sense, not as an idea, but as a feeling, a calm understanding that many versions of the same moment existed together, quietly aligned, the same night unfolding in countless ways, sharing the same silence. Excitement stirred again, slow and warm. It did not pull awareness outward. Instead, it deepened stillness, encouraging rest. The feeling was similar to standing near something immense and ancient, knowing there was no need to approach it closer. The presence remained subtle, almost indistinguishable from the silence itself. It did not intrude. It did not guide. It simply accompanied awareness, like a quiet witness sharing the same space. Its patience felt endless, unconcerned with time or outcome. At times, awareness drifted so deeply that the sense of self thinned. Boundaries softened. There was no clear division between observer and space, only calm continuity, stretching without direction or limit. In these moments, time lost all meaning. There was no counting, no sequence, just a steady flow of quiet existence. The body rested fully, heavy and still, while the mind floated gently in vast openness. Understanding arrived again, softly and without words. This alignment was not temporary. It did not come and go. It was always present, waiting beneath the surface of attention. Sleep simply made it easier to notice. Stillness made it accessible, and patience allowed it to remain. As awareness slowly faded into deeper rest, there was no sense of departure. Nothing closed, nothing ended. The vastness remained, steady and calm, carrying everything forward without effort. The night held its silence carefully, and within that silence, countless worlds continued to exist side by side, layered and quietly aligned, waiting for the next moment when awareness would soften again and remember how close everything truly was. With each passing night, awareness no longer questioned what was happening. Curiosity softened into acceptance, and acceptance settled into calm. There was no need to define the experience anymore. It simply unfolded, gently and naturally, like breathing. As sleep approached, the familiar slowing returned. Thoughts faded earlier now, dissolving before they could form. The body relaxed deeply, sinking into stillness as if guided by an unseen rhythm. Everything felt lighter, quieter, easier to release. In this state, the sense of vastness became comforting rather than overwhelming. The openness no longer felt distant or mysterious. It felt close, familiar, like a space that had always existed just beneath the tension, waiting patiently to be noticed. Excitement was still there, but softened further. It no longer carried anticipation. Instead, it felt like recognition, a quiet warmth that spread through awareness, easing it deeper into rest. The feeling of standing near something immense, without the need to understand it. The presence blended almost completely into the silence now. It was no longer separate, no longer something to be sensed directly. It felt woven into the calm itself, inseparable from the stillness of the night. Moments stretched gently, free from urgency. Time passed without measurement. The distinction between sleeping and waking blurred, leaving only a smooth continuity of awareness, drifting through quiet darkness. There was no crossing this time, no shift, no alignment to notice. Only being. The universe felt steady, balanced, and at rest. Countless realities unfolding simultaneously, not competing, not colliding, simply existing together in perfect calm. Awareness rested among them without effort, like a leaf floating on still water. As sleep deepened completely, there was no sense of leaving anything behind. Nothing faded, nothing closed. The calm remained, holding everything gently in place. And in that calm beyond knowing, where questions no longer formed and answers were unnecessary, the night continued its quiet unfolding, endless, patient, and surrendering awareness softly onward, exactly where it needed to be. As the nights continued, awareness no longer stayed close to the ground. When sleep arrived, the familiar surroundings gently dissolved, and attention began to drift outward slowly, effortlessly, into something far wider. The sky no longer felt like a ceiling. It opened. Stars appeared not as distant points of light, but as calm anchors in a vast, dark ocean. Their glow was soft, steady, and comforting. Each one felt alive in its own quiet way, burning patiently across immense stretches of time. Awareness moved between them without motion. There was no sense of speed, no rush. Distance existed, yet it did not need to be crossed. Everything felt equally close, equally present. Far below, the idea of Earth faded, not disappearing, but becoming smaller, quieter. A single world among countless others, safe, familiar, yet no longer the center. Galaxies emerged slowly, like drifting islands of light, spirals of stars turning endlessly, their movement calm and deliberate. They did not collide, they did not hurry. They simply existed, rotating in silence through the deep cosmic dark. Excitement returned gently, wrapped in awe rather than tension, the kind that relaxes the mind instead of waking it. The feeling of witnessing something enormous while remaining completely at peace. Between the galaxies stretched vast regions of darkness, not empty, but quiet, deep cosmic space, where light thinned and time felt slower. In that darkness, awareness rested easily, unafraid. The silence here was ancient and steady. There was a sense that this space was not separate from the earlier stillness. It was the same calm, expanded, the same layered reality, now revealed on a larger scale. Stars formed, stars faded, entire systems shifted slowly, patiently. Nothing abrupt, nothing violent, just the long, quiet rhythm of the universe breathing. The presence was here too, but even subtler now, not located in any single star or galaxy. It felt spread across everything, woven into the structure of space itself, watching not from a point, but from everywhere at once. Sleep deepened further as awareness drifted among the stars. Thoughts dissolved completely. Only the vastness remained dark, luminous, and endlessly calm. And as the mind rested within this cosmic openness, a quiet understanding settled in. This was not a journey away from home. This was remembering how large home truly was. The universe continued to unfold in silence, carrying awareness gently through its endless nightward places, unseen yet never unfamiliar. As awareness drifted deeper into space, the stillness began to change. Not suddenly, not violently, but with a subtle shift, like a current forming beneath calm water. Between two distant star systems, something moved. At first, it was only a distortion in the darkness. Space itself seemed to bend slightly, folding inward. Then shapes emerged smooth, silent structures gliding through the void. They were not ships in any human sense. No sharp edges, no visible engines. They moved as if space welcomed them, parting gently to let them pass. More appeared. They traveled in formation, slow and deliberate, surrounded by a faint glow that pulsed like a quiet heartbeat. The light was not aggressive. It felt controlled, intentional. Excitement stirred again, deeper this time, yet still calm, the kind that makes awareness sharpen without tension. There was motion now, purpose. From within the vessels, figures became visible. Tall silhouettes, slender and elongated, their forms wrapped in soft, shifting light. Their faces were indistinct, yet their presence was unmistakable, intelligent, focused. They did not search blindly. They were responding. One of the vessels separated from the group, drifting closer. Space around it vibrated gently, as if reality itself were adjusting. The presence that had followed awareness since the beginning now felt concentrated, focused into this moment. There was no fear, only recognition. The beings did not communicate with sound. Instead, impressions flowed directly into awareness. Calm images, star maps forming and dissolving, multiple worlds connected by thin threads of light, parallel paths unfolding side by side. A brief surge of movement followed. Another shape appeared, nearby, larger, darker, surrounded by a colder absence. Its approach was faster, more forceful. The calm formation shifted instantly. The vessels repositioned, placing themselves between the approaching object and the open expanse behind them. This was action without chaos. Energy rippled silently through space, waves of light bent and curved, not exploding but redirecting. The darker shape slowed, its path altered, pushed gently away rather than destroyed. The encounter ended as quietly as it began. The unknown presence retreated into the darkness. The formation relaxed, balance restored. The vessel closest lingered for a moment longer. One final impression flowed through awareness, not words, but understanding. You are not observing from outside. You are aligned within. Then the ships folded back into space, dissolving like reflections on water. Silence returned. Stars resumed their steady glow. Galaxies turned patiently once more. Sleep deepened, heavier now, grounded by the calm after motion. Awareness drifted gently, carrying the echo of the encounter without urgency or fear. Because the universe was not empty. It was active, and somewhere among the stars, others were watching, too, protecting the balance. moving quietly through the vastness, waiting for the next moment when paths would cross again. After the previous encounter faded, space did not return to emptiness. It only seemed calm. Beneath the slow turning of distant galaxies, something continued to move, quiet, deliberate, ancient, far beyond known star systems. Awareness drifted into a region where light grew thin. Here, darkness was not empty. It felt layered, as if multiple realities overlapped in silence. This was a passage between worlds. From the shadows, luminous alien vessels appeared once again. They moved without sound, gliding along invisible currents that existed beyond human understanding. Their paths were old, traced across dimensions long before stars were named. These beings were not explorers. They were guardians. Each ship carried a unique frequency tuned to disturbances across parallel universes. When imbalance formed, when something crossed where it should not, they responded not with force, but with precision. A gentle signal pulsed through the void. Ahead, space began to tremble. Not violently, but persistently, like a slow pressure building from within. A thinning appeared on opening between dimensions. Cold, unfamiliar light spilled outward. From it emerged other beings. Their movement was sharp, invasive. They cut through space rather than flowing with it. Their forms were dense, their intent clear to enter, extract, and disappear. The Guardians reacted instantly. Without weapons or sound, their ships shifted into formation. Soft arcs of light connected them, forming an unseen boundary. As the intruders reached it, their speed slowed, their momentum absorbed by the fabric of space itself. A silent battle unfolded. Energy pressed against energy. Stars flickered in the distance as gravity adjusted. Space bent, stretched, endured. One Guardian vessel moved forward alone. Its light expanded gently, wave after wave, pushing against the invading presence. Resistance lasted only moments. The intruders began to unravel, their forms dissolving as they were guided back through the dimensional veil. The opening sealed, darkness softened. The Guardians remained briefly, ensuring balance had fully returned. Then, one by one, they vanished into their patrol routes between stars and realities. What remained was calm deeper than before. Awareness drifted slowly, heavier now, carried by the steady rhythm of a universe that quietly protects itself. Sleep followed naturally, because most beings were never meant to notice the silent guardians watching over the void beyond their dreams. Beyond the guarded regions of space, far past familiar galaxies, awareness drifted toward something immense. At first, it appeared as a faint gloat, too structured to be natural, too vast to be a single world. As the distance dissolved, the truth became clear. This was not a planet. It was a civilization. Thousands of colossal structures floated in coordinated harmony, arranged around a dim blue star. They did not orbit randomly. Every movement followed a precise rhythm, as if the entire system breathed as one living organism. These beings had long abandoned planets. They lived in space itself. Their cities were grown, not built, woven from crystalline matter and energy fields that bent light softly around them. From afar, the civilization looked like a drifting constellation, glowing gently in the darkness. The inhabitants were ancient beyond measure. They did not communicate with sound or symbols, but through shared awareness. Thoughts traveled instantly across vast distances, carrying memory, intention, and calm authority. This civilization was older than humanity's earliest dreams. They remembered the birth of stars that no longer existed, yet they were not hostile. They were observers. From within the glowing structures, attention turned outward. The recent disturbance, the intruders, the guardians, the sealed rift had been noticed, not as a threat, but as a reminder. Balance was becoming fragile. A slow decision echoed through the collective mind. For the first time in ages, their focus shifted toward younger worlds, toward Earth. Massive vessels detached from the civilization's edge, moving with impossible smoothness. No engines, no force, just intention guiding them through folded space. This was not an invasion. It was preparation. They did not seek contact, not yet. Humanity was still sleeping unaware of how close the universe truly was, but the time of complete isolation was nearing its end. As the vessels disappeared into the cosmic dark, the great civilization resumed its silent harmony. Cities glowed softly, energy flowed, time stretched. Awareness drifted away, heavier now, calmer. Sleep deepened, carrying with it a quiet truth. The universe was not empty. It was organized, ancient, and awake. And somewhere beyond the stars, an entire civilization was watching. Patiently, the vessels traveled without urgency, slipping between layers of space where distance lost its meaning. Stars stretched into soft lines of light, then settled back into stillness. Time itself felt calmer here, slower, as if the universe allowed them passage without resistance. Inside the vessels, the beings did not stand or sit. They existed within fields of awareness, their forms shifting gently between light and structure. They were not individuals in the human sense, but aspects of a greater whole-focused, precise, and fully awake. As they moved closer to the inner regions of the galaxy, subtle changes began to appear. Star systems trembled slightly, not in fear, but in recognition. Ancient signals awakened across space, echoes left behind by civilizations long vanished. Some responded faintly, others remained silent, their time already complete. Then, without warning, space ahead distorted. A familiar fracture appeared in another dimensional opening, unstable and widening faster than before. This one was larger, more aggressive. Whatever pressed from the other side had learned. The vessels slowed. From the rift, shadows emerged, sharper and more numerous than before. Their movement was chaotic, driven by urgency rather than patience. They spread outward, disrupting gravity, dimming nearby stars. The watchers did not hesitate. Light unfolded from their ships, forming vast geometric patterns across space. These were not weapons, but corrections, mathematical responses, written into the fabric of reality. Wherever the patterns passed, space stabilized. The intruders resisted. Energy collided silently. Darkness pushed forward. For a moment, the balance wavered. Then the civilization intervened fully. A single unified pulse expanded outward, calm and overwhelming. It did not destroy, it redefined. The rift collapsed inward, folding back upon itself, sealing dimensions together with gentle finality. The shadows vanished. Stars regained their glow. Silence returned deeper than before. The vessels resumed their journey, knowing now that the disturbances were increasing. The universe was shifting, and younger species would soon feel the consequences. Far away, Earth continued to sleep beneath its thin blue sky, unaware that forces older than time had begun to move closer, not in conquest, but in quiet protection. Awareness drifted, wrapped in calm and cosmic depth, as sleep pulled everything inward once more. And somewhere beyond the stars, the Watchers adjusted their course. As the Watchers adjusted their course, something subtle changed across the galaxy. It was not visible, not measurable by machines, but it could be felt like a low vibration moving through space itself. A signal had been released, not a message of words, but of presence. Across distant star systems, ancient technologies stirred from dormancy. Satellites older than planets reactivated. Structures hidden inside moons and drifting rocks opened their awareness once more. They had been waiting for this frequency. The universe was entering a sensitive phase. Near a quiet red star, one of the Watcher vessels slowed. Ahead floated an enormous construct, nearly invisible unless observed directly. It was a listening station placed there millions of years ago, designed to monitor emerging civilizations. Its attention was fixed on Earth. Streams of data flowed calmly, human radio waves, digital noise, fragments of music, fragments of fear. The Watchers observed without judgment. Humanity was loud, curious, unaware, still young, but something else appeared in the data, a faint distortion, not human-made. It pulsed irregularly, hiding beneath familiar signals. Someone else was listening too. The Watchers shifted focus instantly. Their awareness expanded, tracing the disturbance backward through space. Far beyond the solar system, the signal originated from a shadowed region near collapsed stars. The same presence as before, the intruders were adapting. This time, they were not forcing entry. They were waiting, studying, learning how to pass unnoticed. A quiet tension spread, not fear, but readiness. The Watchers did not respond aggressively. Instead, they adjusted the signal subtly, masking Earth's signature within the natural noise of the galaxy. To younger species, nothing changed. To the intruders, the trail faded. For now, the vessel drifted away from the listening station, rejoining the others. Formation re-established, patrol routes updated. The universe settled again, but the calm felt different, deeper, heavier, charged with meaning. Far below, on a small blue planet, billions slept peacefully, unaware that their dreams were being quietly protected. And in the vast darkness between stars, unseen minds remained awake, watching the night grow longer. The night between stars grew thicker, as if space itself was holding its breath. The Watchers moved deeper now, toward a region rarely crossed a threshold, where physical reality softened and parallel layers brushed against one another. Here, even light behaved differently. Stars appeared doubled, slightly out of alignment, as though reflected in an unseen mirror. Time felt stretched, moments flowing into each other without clear edges. This was a boundary zone, a place where universes quietly touched. The Watchers slowed. Ahead, something waited. A vast structure emerged from the darkness, not artificial, not natural, but something in between. It resembled a drifting ring of shadow and faint blue light, wider than entire solar systems. This was an ancient gateway, inactive for ages. Until now, soft pulses rippled across its surface. The intruders had reached it first. From within the ring, shapes began to form Melian vessels, unlike those seen before. These were larger, more deliberate, moving with controlled intent. They were not scouts, they were architects, preparing passage for something greater. The Watchers formed a silent arc. No sudden movement, no attack. Instead, they released a harmonizing field, spreading gently through the gateway. Space responded immediately. The ring's light wavered, its rhythm disrupted. The intruders reacted. Energy flared not violently, but urgently. They attempted to stabilize the gateway, pushing against the Watcher's field. For a brief moment, the boundary shimmered, realities pressing together like overlapping dreams. Then the Watchers adjusted. Their field deepened, slower, calmer, more precise. It did not resist it. Absorbed, the gateway's pulses weakened, its light dimming as excess energy drained harmlessly into the surrounding void. One by one, the intruder vessels withdrew, slipping back into shadow. The gateway fell silent again, returning to dormancy. Balance restored. The Watchers remained for a time, ensuring stability across the layers. When certainty returned, they dispersed, melting back into the starlit dark. Far away, Earth turned quietly in its sleep. The threshold had been defended, and as awareness drifted gently away, a final thought settled into the silence. Not all doors are meant to open at once. Some are watched, some are waiting, and some will open only when the universe decides it is time. After the gateway fell silent, the universe did not immediately relax. Calm returned on the surface, but beneath it, faint echoes continued to travel ripples, moving through parallel layers like distant thunder. The Watchers sensed it. Something had changed. Not a breach, not yet, but a shift in probability. Across multiple realities, timelines began to align more closely than before. Events that were once distant possibilities slowly drifted toward the same outcome. This convergence was rare and never accidental. Far from Earth, one Watcher vessel paused near a pale, dying star. Within its awareness field, countless futures unfolded, most fading quickly, some lingering longer than they should. In many of them, Earth appeared, not as a battlefield, but as a meeting point. Humanity was approaching a threshold of perception. Not technology alone, but curiosity, awareness, and a quiet readiness born from long nights spent staring into the sky. The universe responded to such moments. The intruders knew this too. They had retreated for now, but their presence remained like a shadow cast forward in time. They were patient, but unlike the Watchers, their patience carried hunger. A decision formed within the greater civilization. Observation would continue, but preparation would deepen. Small, nearly undetectable probes were released across nearby star systems. They drifted slowly, hiding within cosmic radiation, adjusting probability rather than matter. Their task was subtle, to ensure that when contact eventually came, chaos would not. On Earth, nothing appeared different. Cities slept. Oceans moved gently. Somewhere, a person listened to stories of space while drifting into dreams, unaware that those stories were closer to truth than fiction. Above the planet, the night sky remained calm and familiar, but now it was listening back. As awareness softened once more, sleep deepened effortlessly. The universe did not demand attention. It waited, because the future was no longer distant. It was approaching quietly. And when it arrived, it would feel strangely familiar, like remembering something that had always been there. Time passed differently now, not in days or years, but in gentle shifts, small adjustments made quietly across space. The watchers remained present, though rarely in one place. Their awareness moved where balance felt thin, where probability leaned too far in one direction. Near Earth, the probes settled into stable patterns, invisible, silent. They did not observe individuals, but tendencies, curiosity rising, fear fading. The slow expansion of questions humanity had begun to ask about its place in the universe. Late at night, more eyes turned toward the sky, not in panic, in wonder. This, too, was noticed. Far beyond the solar system, the intruders watched from concealment. They no longer rushed. They had learned that force brought resistance. Instead, they waited for recognition moments, when minds opened just enough for influence to slip through, unnoticed. The watchers adjusted again. Dreams became important. Across Earth, people began dreaming of stars, corridors of light, distant cities floating in space. Not messages, not commands, just familiarity. A gentle easing into the idea that the universe was shared. Above the planet, space remained calm. Satellites drifted. The moon kept its silent watch. Nothing unusual appeared on screens or sensors. Yet the atmosphere felt subtly different, as if reality itself had taken a deeper breath. In the distance, the great civilization continued its silent harmony. Cities glowed faintly. Thought flowed freely. Preparation remained steady, deliberate, patient. Contact was no longer a question of if, only how gently. Awareness drifted once more, heavier now, slower, wrapped in the comfort of cosmic inevitability. Sleep deepened without effort. Because when recognition finally arrived, it would not come as shock or fear. It would arrive like remembering the sky has always been above you, even when you forgot to look. The night above Earth remained unchanged to the eye, yet something subtle had shifted. The sky no longer felt distant. It felt attentive. High above the atmosphere, the probes adjusted their positions one final time. They formed no pattern that instruments could detect. Yet together they created a quiet coherence, a readiness, woven into orbit and space beyond. Down below, humanity continued its routines. Lights dimmed. Cities rested. In countless homes, people drifted into sleep, while thoughts of the universe lingered gently in the background, unforced and calm. In those deeper hours, the watchers focused not on governments, not on technology, on awareness itself. A soft resonance spread through near-Earth space, not a signal, not a transmission, more like a tuning. The planet responded slowly, like an instrument settling into harmony. Somewhere in the darkness between stars, the intruders felt it too. They paused. This was not the opening they had waited for. Recognition without fear was dangerous to them. They tested the edge carefully, releasing a faint influence toward the planet's subtle distortions meant to provoke unease. But the effect faded quickly, absorbed by the stabilizing presence already in place. The watchers did not intervene directly. They did not need to. Earth was learning to remain calm while being observed. Above the planet, the moon passed silently through its phase, reflecting pale light across oceans and land. The sky answered not with craft or voices, but with a feeling vast, patient and quietly reassuring. Awareness drifted deeper into rest. Sleep held steady, because the first true moment of contact would not arrive with alarms or sudden light. It would arrive when fear no longer rushed to meet the unknown. And as the universe waited, perfectly still and endlessly awake, one truth settled gently into the night. When the sky finally speaks back, it will do so softly, and only to those already listening. The universe did not announce what came next. There were no flashes, no sudden breaks in the sky. Instead, alignment began quietly, so subtle that even the watchers paused to observe its perfection. Earth entered a rare position, not only in space, but in probability. For a brief window, multiple layers of reality overlapped more closely than they had in thousands of years. Past, present, and near future pressed gently together, like pages of a book resting on the same word. The probes responded immediately. They synchronized. A soft lattice formed around the planet, not physical, not energetic, but perceptual. It did not block, it clarified. Noise faded, signals sharpened. Awareness across the planet became calmer, more focused, more receptive. Above the atmosphere, something appeared. Not visible as an object, but as a presence, vast, patient, unmistakably intentional. The watchers had arrived closer than ever before, remaining just beyond detection, respecting the fragile balance of recognition. Far beyond them, the greater civilization observed in silence. This was the moment they had prepared for. The intruders felt it too and withdrew. This alignment was not a weakness. It was protection through coherence. Any attempt to disrupt it would expose them instantly. Below, on Earth, dreams shifted again. People dreamed of standing beneath open skies that felt alive, of stars that seemed to recognize them, of vast beings that did not speak, yet felt familiar like distant relatives remembered without names. No instructions were given, no truths revealed, only reassurance. The message was simple, wordless, and universal. You are not early. You are not late. You are exactly where you need to be. As alignment slowly eased, the lattice dissolved. Probes returned to quiet orbit. The watchers retreated slightly, satisfied. Earth continued turning. Morning came. Most would remember nothing, but something remained: a softness in the mind, a sense of calm when looking at the sky, a quiet curiosity no longer mixed with fear. The universe had not revealed itself. It had introduced itself, and far beyond the stars, ancient minds waited patiently, knowing the next steps would unfold not in days or years, but in understanding. The alignment passed, and with it the moment gently closed. Not sealed, not ended, simply set aside. The watchers withdrew to their distant paths between stars and dimensions, their presence fading back into the quiet structure of the cosmos. The probes around Earth returned to stillness, indistinguishable from the natural rhythm of space. The great civilization beyond the galaxies resumed its slow, harmonious existence. Nothing dramatic followed, and that was the point. Earth continued to turn beneath its familiar sky. Days unfolded, nights returned. Humanity carried unaware of how close the universe had come, unaware of how carefully it had been protected. Yet something subtle endured. a calm curiosity, a sense of belonging when looking at the stars, a feeling that the universe was no longer empty but patient. The intruders remained out there, somewhere beyond known space, watching and waiting, but now aware that this region was guarded, balanced, and awake. They would not rush again, not soon, because the universe had spoken without words. It had shown restraint, intelligence, and care, and Earth had responded not with fear, but with quiet readiness. Sleep deepened across the planet, night after night, as countless minds drifted into dreams filled with stars, distant lights, and endless skies, not messages, not warnings, reminders that existence is vast, that consciousness is shared, that no world truly stands alone. Far beyond human sight, ancient beings continue their watch not as rulers, not as invaders, but as witnesses to a long unfolding story still in its early chapters. And as awareness finally settled into complete rest, one truth remained, steady and comforting. The universe is awake. It is calm, and it is waiting, not for conquest, but for understanding. Silence returned, not empty silence, but the kind that watches over sleep,